farmers and aspiring farmers. Thank you for tuning into yet another informative edition of your program. This is Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030. This is where we discuss everything agriculture. We look at the business fundamentals in agriculture, production economics, time value of money, business finance, from different perspectives, be it cropping, livestock, and even just any other enterprise that our Zimbabwean farmers might want to take advantage of so that they are sustainable and also making a living off of their agricultural ventures. Today we are coming to you from Beatrice. We are in Mashonaland East at ZIMBO Tuli Stud Farm, and I am joined by Anne Cook. She is the owner of the ZIMBO Tuli Stud in Beatrice. She's chairman of Zimbabwe Headbook, the Tuli Cattle Federation of Southern Africa as well. And thank you so much for affording us an opportunity to visit your enterprise today.
Thank you very much, and you're very welcome to come here, and I love sharing what we do with everyone in the country because this is part of our heritage, every Zimbabwean's heritage, what we do here, because it's one of our indigenous breeds. It's the Tuli. There's 3 Sangha breeds, Tuli, Shona and Nkoni. So this one is the Tuli, and it's one of the animals that have been in Zimbabwe for over 5,000 years. Okay. So what we are trying to educate people on is that with agriculture, things often go that's better over the fence. You know, if you go to South Africa, you get better stuff, or you go to Europe, you get better stuff. Well, whereas here we've got gold. Yeah. So our little saying for our stud, if you read on our stud thing, is grass into gold. Okay. So these cattle can turn the grass into gold in your pocket. Yes. Because if you're going to go farming, for me, there's various reasons people farm, but for me, I need to make money. I needed to educate my children. So that was our goal when my husband and I sat down. He's a tobacco farmer, and my goal was to run the cattle to make money to educate our kids. When you go farming, you've got to ask yourself, why do I want to run cattle? Yeah. So do I want it as a hobby? Yeah. Am I somebody who's just been given a bit of land and I like to go there on the weekend and I like to look at my cattle? That's fine. That's what you want. So you need to identify why do you want to do cattle, because you will select different cattle for different reasons. Mm-hmm. So for me, because I needed them to be profitable, I needed money in my pocket to pay their school fees. So I had to choose a breed that wouldn't give me, you can see some cattle sell for very high prices. Mm-hmm. What you don't see is how much it costs those people behind the scenes. Exactly, the production cost. Exactly. Yes. So because these cattle are indigenous and they've adapted to Africa over thousands of years, they're not totally disease free and they can't live on soil, but they have a lot less pressure on your budget when it comes to, they don't need as much food and they don't need as much medical attention and veterinary care and that sort of stuff. Okay. So they cost you less to run. So when I did my plans and worked it out, the Tuli was going to be my most cost effective, and yet it still sells for a good price. Okay. It was also part of me being a Zimbabwean. I wanted to do something that was Zimbabwean. Why run Angus from England? I'm not an English person, I'm a Zimbabwean, so I wanted to do something for my country. That is indigenous. Indigenous is part of what was my outlook on life as well. Okay. So once you've done that, once you've decided why you want to run your cattle, you've got to look at how am I going to do it? Because you might sit in your armchair in town and say, I'd like to have some cattle. But how are you going to do it? The means and ways, your management style. Yes, where's my land? Have I got the time to do it? Have I got family members who might be able to help for me? So then you've got to sit down and do a business plan. And then you've got to start thinking about things like what zone, what area are you in? Because I hear a lot of people who come to me and say, I want to buy a bull. And I say, okay, and we try and tailor make our purchases for people to what they have on farm. So in here you'll see there's a variety of bulls, but these might not suit every environment. I might have one that suits a small scale more, one that suits a big commercial setup based on EBVs, estimated breeding values, which we get done from Australia that come back. So all of the Tuli Society, by the way, is the most active society in the country and has EBVs done, registrations, DNA testing. We can tell you the size and dams of every single animal in here. If you go online, you can look at any of these animals in here online and look at all its facts and figures. When they come and ask me, they'll say, I want a bull. I'll say, how many animals you got there? They've got 20. And I say, well, how much area have you got? I've got 6 hectares. I've been allocated 6 hectares. Now that's not a plan, is it? Exactly. Because in this region, we're supposed to run 1 animal to 3 hectares. Okay. So 20 animals needs you 60 hectares. So 6 hectares that he's been allocated isn't going to work. But if he works with his neighbours and they work as a team together, then maybe he gets more hectares.
He can rent a bit of land from his neighbours, and then he can also use it for the more cattle he's bringing onto his farm. Now, Anne, you did touch briefly on some of the characteristics that the Tuli has.
Exactly.
Can you talk to us in terms of the nutrition, those major elements or those major nutrients that are essential for the development of a Tuli bull?
So, especially with our drought that we're all going through at the moment, the reason that we choose Tuli is because we don't feed cattle here. We supplement cattle.
Yes.
So, just in a simple terms for viewers, the high veld is sour veld. So long back, before we put fences and farms and everything here, cattle would come up here and graze short green growing grass, October, November, December, January, and then as it started to get dry here, February, March, they would move off the high veld down to the low veld, because the grass here, the nutrient grows up into the grass, and when winter comes, it pulls its nutrient back into its roots, and then it goes brown on top, like you can see around here. So what's left is not nutrient rich at all. It's like eating cardboard. There's a little bit, but not much. In the low veld, the grass grows and leaves all its goodness, because it grows from seed and it dies and leaves all the goodness in the brown grass on top. Which is why in the low veld they have much worse drought issues when they have no water, because it doesn't grow. But in the wintertime, if it has grown, they've got very nice food, sweet veld. It's called sweet veld through the time. So when we are up in this area, we don't allow my cattle to walk down to the sweet veld like they would have done thousands of years ago.
They'll be losing weight along the way.
Yeah, but they would be taking themselves to the food they needed. So I have to supplement the feed.
Yes.
So when I'm not feeding, I'm supplementing. So they must eat this grass, grass into gold, because this grass doesn't cost me anything. It's there on the ground, it grows by itself, they must eat it. So we supplement as much as necessary, as little as possible. And with the indigenous breeds, you get away with lower supplementations. Not no supplementations, because you can't ask animals to eat something. As I said, they're adapted to find, they would have moved 100 kilometers away to better food if they needed to. We don't let them go there, we keep them here, so we've got to help them, we've got to supplement them. So that's a very important thing that people need to understand. And that's where I talk about different management systems. If you are a small-scale farmer and you want your cattle in your kraal at night to put manure in the ground, which is what you take and put on your maize crops, you don't mind if your cow has a calf every second year, because that cow is doing a different job to what my cows on this farm will be doing.
Exactly.
And it's not a wrong job, it's just a different job. So they don't need to maybe be as aggressive with the supplements as I am, because they don't need a calf every year. For my system, my cows must have a calf every year. Otherwise I'm not making money. 60% weaning rate, not calving rate, weaning rate covers your costs in a commercial setup. Anything above 60% rate is your profit, it pays for your school fees. But anything below 60%, and I'm losing money. I'm paying money into it's costing me money to run my cattle. And I'm pulling money from other places to run my cattle. So if you don't give them adequate nutrition, you're not going to get your calves, and then you're not going to get your above 60% weaning rate, and then you're not going to make any money. So it's really important that you monitor the body condition score. So all of our guys here have been trained, and they all have a piece of paper on them which has got a body condition score.
Which speaks to essential record keeping.
Exactly.
You need to have your records in check, so that at the end of the day you are looking, am I making a profit? Am I running losses? What should I adjust? How should I enhance this enterprise? Now, and I'm going to go on a short commercial break. I'm going to ask you to cut that short. We'll continue in the second segment.
Perfect.
On that note, viewers have come to the end of this first segment. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the second segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, farmers, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness, in support of Vision 2030. We are looking to address SDG 1 and 2, which speaks to poverty alleviation and eradication of hunger. Even if you go on to SDG number 12, it speaks to responsible or sustainable production, which is what we are looking at today. We are here in Beatrice, where we are looking at this beautiful Tuli breed with Anne Cook. Now, viewers, encourage you to be a part of these conversations. Feel free to get in touch with the producer, Wazanai Manyore. So on 0772 807 506. Alternatively, you can like our Facebook page, Agribusiness with Ozanai. Make a follow-up on this episode and more, and leave your comments and suggestions. They are most welcome to us. Our YouTube channel is Agribusiness with Ozanai. We are also now available on X, formerly known as Twitter. This is where most of these discussions do take place. It's at Agribusiness 110. On LinkedIn, it's at Wazanai Manyore. And we are here in the second segment. Welcome back.
Thank you. So just talking about that record keeping, because we run a pedigree stud, so we sell genetics to people. People come here and they buy a bull that is they're going to take home and it's going to improve their herd. So because we're talking about genetics, we can only scientifically tell you that this bull is a good bull, and if I've got the records. So every record has to be kept if you do pedigree breeding. It's high management and consistent high management. So as soon as a calf's born, we record the date, its weight, the mother's weight. At 200 days we weigh it, 400 days we weigh it, 600 days we weigh it, scrotal circumference we take, because that's early maturity, so it's a really important thing. Largest testes and young bulls, early maturing heifers. We don't want our heifers calving in 4 years. Money not in my pocket, because I've run it for 4 years. Yeah, I've run it for 4 years before I've got a calf back. I want at least 3 years in a large scale system. Some people even bull them at 1 year old, but that gets to be very tricky, because you've got nutrition you're putting a lot of money into nutrition. So in this country we tend to bull at 2 years to calve at 3. So we then take all of those information together. It gets sent into the Zimbabwe herd book, who receive it under Breed Plan. That's the program that's run there. It's an international program. That information gets cleaned up to make sure that, because input errors and that sort of thing can happen. It then gets sent to Australia. Australia analyze, so they take the management out. What they do with their very big scientific equations is they take the environment out and they analyze the genetics of an animal. So, and it gets quite accurate. To up to 97%, they can say these bulls will give you a birth weight of 28 kgs. Birth weight important, because too small, it's correlated to growth. We don't have any growth, and growth, weaning, selling our weaners, that's where we get our money. Too big and we have calving problems. So we like to monitor that, the birth size.
Which leads me to my next question, Ain. I would like us to look at issues surrounding fertility. In cases of mummified births, what could be the cause of that? How are you managing to ensure that each and every cow that is carrying reaches its final months, or reaches the final stage of giving birth to a healthy calf without much difficulty? How are you helping your cows? And also looking at fertility. How do you enhance fertility? I understand that even in humans, there are times where they take supplements to ensure that they are fertile enough to conceive. What is it like for you in your herd to ensure that you are enhancing productivity?
So I get this question a lot, because people want a silver bullet. They don't want to put lots of hard work and money in. They want a little thing to say, can I give it an injection to make my cow cycle? A trick. There's no trick. 80% of fertility is nutrition. 80% is nutrition. Get your nutrition right at the right time of the year. Too fat, you're wasting money. Too thin, you're not getting calves. Get it right at the right time of the year, and you will sort out 80% of your fertility problems. Having said that, if you have an infertile cow, doesn't matter how well she's looked after, she's not going to calve very well from you. And then the other very important thing is vaccinations. We have certain diseases in this country that are all around the country, CA, vibriosis, IBV, will cause abortions and that sort of thing. So you have got, as a cattleman, to run a program where, by law, every cattle animal in this country should be, by 6 months old, vaccinated for CA, contagious abortion. So all farmers, that's what you should be doing, because if you're not, you're spreading the disease for all the other farmers. So, and it's a law. So they can come and slaughter your cattle if you haven't done it.
And also, Ian, just still on that, there are farmers who are looking to cut corners, whereby people are thinking that artificial insemination is this big thing that if I get semen from Anne, I just inject it into my cow, I'm just going to have exactly what the cattle look like. That's what people think. Yes. There is a misconception when it comes to artificial insemination. As a cattleman, as someone who's seasoned in this industry, Anne, I would like you to demystify some of these misconceptions. People think that artificial insemination has come to replace certain things that you need to fulfill to ensure that you are running a profitable venture.
So it is a gift that we've been given, but it is, as I said, it's not a silver bullet, and that's what people forget. So artificial insemination allows us to take semen from a very good bull and use it, and people think, okay, it's only going to cost me $200 instead of buying a $2,000 bull. The problem is, they come to the farm. You've got to have a technician who knows what he's doing, because you if I said to you, go and inseminate a cow, you don't even know where to start.
Exactly.
And if I said to our guys here, there's courses you go on. And then there are guys who've been doing it for many years because it's a feel of hand. It's like putting a drip in somebody. Some people are very good at it and other people not so good. And then if your cow is not in the right body condition score, you can't inseminate her until she's cycling. She won't cycle until the nutrition's right. So yes, it's a good way of getting genetics and using genetics, but only if you are a farmer who is on farm, organized, nutrition is upright, you've got the right skilled personnel, then you can do it. But to try and think, I'll just go and get it, because a floss, you've got to have it full of nitrogen. You might go and buy a whole bunch of expensive semen, you let your nitrogen run out, it's all dead. You can inseminate all you like, you're not going to get a calf.
Exactly.
So it's a technical thing.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand it, then don't do it. If farmers are prepared to take the next technical step and maybe get together as a group and have it there and get this technician, and you can synchronize cattle, but there's no point synchronizing cattle if their body condition score is too low. Exactly. They won't cycle. So then you're just wasting money.
So basically you are emphasizing on the importance of acquiring knowledge,
yes,
getting educated, being trained before getting into these things. Because at times a person just go on Google, types in a word,
yeah,
and it's very possible. You see the breed that Ain has and the way their bulls were looking,
yeah,
it's exactly what you're going to get if you get semen from them. Yeah. Thank you so much for enlightening our audience. I understand that we have people even in the UK and the diaspora who are saying want to come back home and invest in cattle production, and most of them are just getting ideas on artificial insemination without being thorough when it comes to how it's done.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. On that note, we also have come to the end of the second segment. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back in this and more in the third and final segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, farmers, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness, in support of Vision 2030. We are here in the third and final segment of your program. Now, and we are here in the third and final segment. I understand that Zimbabwe is an agro-based economy, but at the end of the day, some people feel like there is no room for them to participate. What are your views when it comes to that?
Okay, so it's a passion of mine that, and I was brought up by a father who said you must never live on this earth taking, you must also give to this earth. So as Zimbabweans, we can't solve all the problems, but
yes,
each of us can find some route where we can actually make a difference. So if you're doing cattle, one of the parts of your business plan must be, where am I going to put my efforts to help my community, my neighbor, my country? What piece of that am I going to choose? We also have farmers unions that people can join. They also have input. They have links with government, and they can talk. So join a union, join the Zimbabwe Beef Producers Society. And when you join the society, you don't just join it, you join it and say, right, I'm good at computer work. What do you need in the society that can help? Because when I'm sitting in the diaspora and I'm on my computer, do you need records kept? Because I can do that for you.
Exactly.
Because so often people complain and complain and complain in this country.
Exactly.
But what are we doing about it? And yes, I can't solve all the country's problems, but I can make sure people understand the Tuli cattle.
You're educating them.
I can bring students in and help them with education who are fantastic. I can work with my labor and make sure that they get the best out of their job. And I can work at the Zimbabwe Herd Book as a chairman. You don't get paid for it, but it's my duty. The next guy will take over from me and the next one from him. So we all put something in. And then we've set up the Tuli Cattle Federation, which is, so we got together with South Africa and Namibia, because remember, Tulis are a Southern African animal, identified and classified in Zimbabwe, so it's a Zimbabwean breed, but there weren't any borders that said in the old days that only, they followed our Zimbabwean line, so they are a Southern African breed. So we are now talking with our neighbors because we have common problems. Foot and mouth is now in both countries. How are we going to deal with that? Import, export, what solutions have they got? Let's share those things. And if everyone picks up a piece of weight and carries it, the general weight is not that high. But in this country, we all sit back and put our hands out and say...
You fold your hands, or you're just begging, you're looking for...
So I want everyone to look, so what can I do? And you know what, you don't ask you to do something that's out of your comfort zone, but find what you can do well.
Be a part of the solution.
And then you've got a right to complain. That's what I say to people. If you're complaining, first of all, what do you do? Okay, now you have a right to complain.
Which leads me to our next question, Anne. Just educate us briefly in terms of the capital intensity or even the economic muscle, what you need to forego to ensure that you are sacrificing and you are giving it your all to participate in livestock production.
Yeah. So there's steer production, or no, growing out steers is your most short term. In other words, you go to the market, you buy in weaner steers, you grow them out and you sell them in 8 months' time or 15 months' time. That's the quickest, most simple, and if you're not on your farm, you don't have much management, that's the simple one to do.
Okay.
The minute you become a breeder, you've got to have bulls, you've got to have, births, you're dealing with record keeping, you're dealing with a lot more. You do record keeping. Inspections.
You are monitored on how you're undertaking.
Well, that's the pedigree. The pedigree breeding is another level up because you get commercial breeders who just do breeding and they don't have to keep as many records as us. And then the biggest management is pedigree breeding. We can sell our animals for more money, but there's a lot of consistent work behind it. I can't just work hard for 1 week and say, okay, I'm done for the year. It's every single day, doing it right every single day. That's the difference. So when you do your business plan, you must work out how much is this going to cost me? When is the first money going to come in? And a lot of people have a delayed gratification. In other words, I walk along and I say, that's a nice car. I really want that car. You know, I bought these cattle. I'm just going to sell 6 of them quickly because I want my car. So instead you look and say, let me wait for my car.
Yes.
Let me let those cows have calves. And in 2 years' time when those calves are booked, then I sell them, then I get my car. So if we can do a business plan where you don't take money out of the system unless it's on a piece of paper and planned. So I budget this much for dip. I mean, I know somebody who had 100 and odd animals, 100 cows. He lost 67 to tyleriosis because he didn't buy the dip. Dip would cost you $100, $200. He lost 67 cows at about a value of $800 each.
He just failed to buy that dip. You are saying that even one cattle could cater for purchasing dip for the other 99.
Yeah, and so he didn't do his due. Would have been better to take his money instead of buying cattle and just put it in savings. Yeah. And why? And it's cruel to those animals to allow them to just die. 14 died in 1 day from tyleriosis by lack of dipping. So it's really important that you have a plan.
Exactly.
So, and that's where I also talk about interaction with government, because the veterinary department has a job to do.
Exactly.
And it's a very strict job they have to do. But at the same time, us farmers have issues we have to deal with on the ground, and the government has their issues. If we're not talking to each other, then we're never going to have a functioning industry. Because without veterinary, our disease gets out of control. But without farmers, the veterinary industry doesn't have
any job
to do. So we need each other and we need to be talking to each other. The economics of it is really, really important, just to put a business plan, even if it's a piece of paper this big. Yeah.
Now, Anne, we have come to the end of this segment, this episode, which was very rich with education and knowledge. Just your sentiments, your word of advice in a snippet, your recommendations to our policymakers, or advice to those who are wanting or seeking to get to participate in livestock. So in a nutshell, we need to make it make money, grass into gold. If I'm making money, I'm looking after what I'm doing. So to all our policymakers, the first thing that when you're doing any policy is engage with all stakeholders. Yes. Call the meetings. The public are there to talk to you. Hear them out.
And they've often got good suggestions for you because they're on the ground doing it. And secondly, put profit as the top thing. This industry needs to make profit. There's no point in us having, we have elephant in the country, and we don't necessarily have to make profit, but if we don't make profit out of an elephant, where the game scouts going to get hired? It becomes a liability, a burden to the country. So the more profit something is making, the more money it's making for the country, the better looked after that thing is, and the better for. I had a very good friend of mine who died, who was a cattle guy. He told me a high tide lifts all ships. So if the tide comes in, it lifts all the ships. So we must all work on getting the tide in. It'll lift mine, yours, because a lot of people sit here saying, oh no, you're not sharing my bull. Oh no, I'm doing my thing, you must do your thing. But if I work with everyone, bring the tide in, it lifts all the ships. So we need to all work together to lift that tide for the cattle. Thank you so much, Anne, for such a detailed presentation. There you had it, viewers. Today we are coming to you from Beatrice, where we are looking at the ZIMBO Tuli stud that is being owned by Anne Cook here. From me, your host, Wazi, just before I close, I want to emphasize and reiterate on what Anne's late friend told her when he said, a high tide lifts up all ships. From me, your host, Wazi, I'm also on Instagram. It's at Wazi110, and the crew behind the scenes. Have yourselves a fabulous evening. Thank you for watching.